So welcome everyone to our webinar today on the future of account-based selling. I am Laura Hall. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Revigy, also joined by our Head of Sales, Joe Monastero, also Head of Sales at Revigy. We are very excited to welcome Seth Mars. He is our Principal Analyst that we've been working with at Forrester. We've personally been working closely with him on this account-based sales movement and have learned a lot from the research that he's doing, and really excited to be able to share some of this with you today, and hopefully this will be an enlightening session for all of us. Seth, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you very much. Looking forward to going through this with you guys. So there's a lot of work that's been done around this with Laura and Joe. We've talked about it a lot. So I'm just going to jump right in because there's a fair amount to cover in a pretty short amount of time. So future of account-based selling. This is something that is growing in importance. And as you'll see, as we go through the slides, it's really aligning more to how buyers are looking to buy, and more accurately, how buying groups are looking to buy. So the odd thing about this, when you look at it, is there's a lot of signals that say that the selling process isn't as important as it was before. So if you look at this information, a lot of buyers are saying, I prefer not to talk to a sales rep, and that percent's increasing, and I'd prefer to gather my own information, also increasing. So that's one signal that says, well, I don't necessarily want to talk to a sales rep. I want to do this stuff on my own. Also, in some of our buyer studies, what we can see as well is there's a lot more purchasing happening in the channel. That's not news, right? We know that customers they're used to e-commerce, they want to use e-commerce, and we could see it through the data from 2015 to 2019. That percentage of people using e-commerce channels is increasing. And if you go even further and look at millennials, they're using it even more. So it's pushing them away. They prefer to buy through e-commerce. The interesting thing around this is when you look at when things really matter. So when a buyer needs to really get it right, or a buying group really needs to get it right, what we've seen and what the indications are is they turn to the seller. So the response from COVID and how things changed, if you look at 2019, where I showed you before, that was dropping, more people going to e-commerce. In 2021, that flipped, and actually more customers engaged with their sales rep. In the last 6 months of 2020, the virtual or in-person interactions with sellers from buyers increased significantly. And even if you turn to millennials, who are very accustomed to dealing with e-commerce platforms and wanting to do that stuff on their own, theirs significantly increased as well. So when you're really looking to make an important key purchase, it really does come back to the seller, and the seller being able to work with you to help you make the best possible decision. So when we look at sales motions, we talk to 4 different types. I really see it as 2 different types. Your low touch transactional stuff, you're going to want to push off and have that just go to e-commerce. Reduce friction for the buyer, let them buy the way that they want to buy. But when it comes to the really important stuff, and the big deals that matter for companies, the expensive deals, the things that they have to get right, they're going to turn to sellers. And account management and being able to support that particular account and all of the buyers in that account to make that right decision is as important as ever. So the first place that I want to start is just talking about, so why does account planning matter? What makes it important, and why should you utilize these tools to try to help your sellers? There's 4 things that I'll talk through as the reasons why. Buying groups purchase from those they know best. So if we dig a little into that, when we did a review of what the decision drivers are for buyers, their number one thing is previous experience with the company. The ability of a company to get to know their client, to engage with them, to develop experiences. And those experiences don't have to be, I bought from you. It could be that you built a relationship over time, you've got to know them, and when the right moment came, they called you because their experience with you has been good and they trust you for this particular decision. you need an account-based selling tool will be very helpful as you're trying to build that relationship. The next one, buying groups are doing more due diligence. So what we've seen in our data, the number of interactions they're having is increasing. They're really looking and taking advantage of more information, taking in more information, both digitally and through human interactions. So we saw a significant increase between 2019 and 2021. And that's on both sides, both the human and non-human, with even non-human interactions becoming even more important or significantly increasing compared to the human interactions. And then the purchase timeframes as well are going up. So not only are they using more interactions, but we're also seeing those interactions expand. So they're taking more time to make a decision. And there's a couple reasons for that. Some of that is due to the complexity and the due diligence they're doing. Some of it is also just more people are involved in these deals, as you'll see in a second. So the other piece is accounts use buying groups, not individuals. And this is something that's really critical to us and something that we talk about constantly with our clients as an analyst group. It's the way people buy. They don't buy as single buyers anymore. So if we look at kind of the different groups, we break it down into independent, consensus, and committee. And we look at them from that perspective just to see how these groups are formed. Are they big groups where it's 6 to 9 people, larger than 4 months, which you can see in the data on the timing. Most deals are going to 4 months. Is it 3 to 9 or is it less than 3? And some of the data we've seen, we know that over 60% are purchasing, have 4 or more people involved. We know that 80% purchase are included in those complex consensus committee buying groups. So they're shifting, and our data shows that it's shifting. If you look at it from 2015 all the way to 2021, you can see it was holding for a little while, but the independent, which is that 1 to 2 buyer involvement, 1 to 2 buyers involved in the deal, has shifted from 41% all the way down to 18. Kind of makes sense if you think about it. If you're moving all of your transactional stuff or transactional interactions into an e-commerce self-serve type platform, the only thing that's left are those big complex deals that customers really need help from sellers to make the right decision. So it makes sense that as a buyer, you would bring in more people to be educated on that decision and have more people involved to make sure you make that decision correctly. So time for our first poll. Flora, do you want to? Here we go.
Yep,
so,
this should have.
Go ahead.
This should have just popped up for you all, asking how many people on average are in your buying groups. We'll give it a couple minutes for people to answer. And Seth, while people are getting their answers in, we did have a question in the chat here. Given the larger deals, right, this is a very relevant question. Does the due diligence timing or the number of interactions and timing account for the size of deals?
I think the number of interactions, it has to, right? Because you have a certain level of complexity that's going in. I think there's other pieces to that. Like you have more information than you've ever had before. So you can look at eight different spots to be able to figure out what's going on in that particular account. I think the other part of it is with complexity comes more people, comes more collaboration, which requires more time to get everybody on the same page. So that's also that also extends things.
Yep, and we're seeing too, even there's just more discussion around the budget holders. Even though I might own my own budget and I know I want to buy something over a certain level, I still have to involve finance. But that's been a big change, for us, even internally in the past year.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's kind of a good thing, right? As a company, a lot of the people who are doing the buying aren't just doing it on their own or aren't just doing their research. They're taking it all the way down to the user level and saying, okay, as a user, what do you like? And then finance will get involved in these big deals as they want to make sure that they're successful. So it's actually pulling in not just more people, but a really diverse set of people into these deals.
You're absolutely right on that, Seth. One of the biggest things I'm seeing too, as we go down this path, is a lot of times the customers we're working with, as they're doing their research up front and then digging in with an actual vendor, it makes sense for us as vendors across the board to align ourselves with that buying group and let them know that it may not be the best option to go and ask 50 different end users, but to have a real focused group there. As we're selling kind of a sales technology here, obviously, when we go and have that happen, you get 50 different answers back, completely varied across the board from those end users. So I would suggest, as you're going down that, especially with these larger deals, try to work with your buying group, especially if you have a coach or a champion that's helping you drive into the organization, to level set that, maybe instead of 15 or 20 people, focus on 5 or 7 or 1 from each of the individual regions that you feel is a good representation of that overarching region and potential requirements. That's going to be real successful for you there and help streamline that whole process.
Yeah, it's a great point. You're trying to get them to the point where they don't get analysis by paralysis, right? You want feedback, but you don't want everyone's feedback. So you still need to have those key decision makers. And as a seller, so what makes it even more important is to understand and do the diligence to understand in that account, who are those people and how do you isolate and figure out who they are and how to approach them, to know the people that you just want to make sure that they've informed the process, but they aren't slowing it down. And the people who really want to be engaged, they have an understanding so they can help move things forward. It's a great point.
Yep, exactly. We have the poll questions popping up here, or the answers rather. It looks like the overwhelming majority of you are seeing 3 to 9 people in the buying groups. It's 81% of the audience. 13% are seeing 10 plus, and 6% are seeing less than 3. So
wow.
That's
95%. So I mean, we had it at 80, and now looking at this, 95% of those on this webinar are dealing with complex groups, which is, it makes a lot of sense. It's just going to keep going that way.
I was going to say, this isn't going to stop. It's just going to keep building and building. I know one more question in the interest of time, somebody put in the chat, Jonathan asking, are you seeing more suppliers being considered for each purchase?
Yes and no. I think more suppliers are being kind of reviewed or looked at a high level, but I think companies are often turning to different sites and different, we do it through waves. There's other pathways that you can do it to try to identify and isolate it down. But I think at the macro level, there's the initial search is going to be pretty wide. And then what buyers are doing is they're starting to look for ways to hone that, because now they could see more than ever, right? It used to be the first sales rep that could get there and kind of get in front of the person and provide the details of their product would be in the lead. Now today you're getting all of that stuff and you're quickly isolating it down by looking at reputation, what these products do, and getting those out. So I think it starts macro, but my sense and what I've seen is it quickly goes down to those top vendors that are reliable and have all the features that you're looking for. Great question. All right, so jumping back in this, going into the buying group piece. We talk a lot about buying groups and we talk a lot about opportunities, and we'll continue to talk through it in this presentation, and we do it throughout both our sales and marketing research. In order to be successful as a buying group, you need to utilize opportunities. Buying groups do not work with leads. So, when you look at the signals and the reasons why that's important, one, you're blind to the interaction, the insight from interaction. So that's those people that are working and interacting with your product. You could have a meeting and you could see this stuff play out in real time on digital. 5 people walk out of a meeting, all 5 go back to their desk and do a search on your product. One may use G2, the other one may use TechTarget, the other one may use your website, the other one may use something else, do a Google search, and you may get 5 signals back either through intent or direct interaction, and they're all distinctly different. So you want to have insight to all of those together in one place. The other thing is it makes it hard to understand the relationships. When you put those contacts onto the same opportunity record, now you know all 5 of those people, and you can start understanding what each of them are looking for and what their relationships may be, and now add that information into an account-based tool where the seller can go, okay, this is what their relationships are. Now we have a buying group and we understand the dynamics. So it kind of goes back to what you were talking about, Joe, where you're like, I need to understand, because these guys kind of, buying groups kind of go crazy and at everybody. I need to do my due diligence up front, so I know who can I talk to facilitate this deal and keep it moving, so you don't just have too many people talking about it. And then the final piece is you're blind to additional opportunities. Sometimes, and in a lot of cases, you can see this information coming in, and when you're watching it come in and get assigned to opportunities, especially if you're collaborating, where you have your intent coming into that account and being analyzed by your rep may see that signal come through and not even and be able to identify that signal is not for this opportunity. It's actually for a new opportunity that sparks another lead. It's hugely powerful and something that we talk about daily, all the time. So account-based selling really enables this shift, this shift to the buying group from a seller standpoint. From the sales standpoint, it enables the shift because it creates a shared vision. You can align on that buying group within the account or that set of buying groups, because as any seller would know, in every company, if you're selling into one department, you're going to have one buying group. Department number 2 is going to have another one. They may have some overlap, but they're going to be pretty distinct. So by having that information and being able to aggregate, understand, and disseminate it to your sales rep through the account, you can change the focus. You understand where the interlocks are. You know what the different things that you're trying to do. So you can be very adept at going and getting things focused in the way you want it to. You can change the work. So when you're managing the change the work, you can make it more impactful, right? It goes back to what we talked about earlier. If they're dragging their feet and you know that, you can kind of push it forward and try to help. Whereas if you didn't have visibility to that and didn't really understand the account, you'd kind of be beholden to it. And then the culture of the deal is another one where it would also change. I mean, this evolution from independent into these complex buying groups is creating kind of a different culture of how you sell. Now, big complex deals there's nothing new to a seller around a complex buying group, but having a tool that allows you to really understand them, and then having that tool informed by marketing and other sources by utilizing the opportunity, that's a different game. And that's one that can really be informed through using these types of tools. So the final piece is B2B sellers' top activities are all improved by account-based selling. So we did a survey when we just looked at in our channel and sales survey in 2020. Take a look at these top things. They engage in collaborative solution creation with their company. They're interacting with buyers in their preferred channels. They share deep insights. They network. Every one of these things on this list is improved by understanding and having a tool available to you that allows you to dissect the account and re-put it back together in a way that you understand it. It informs and helps you in all of these motions. And these are sellers that are saying this. So you can take this information. This information is going to be valuable to them. They're saying it. They just need to know how to use these tools in a way to really inform it. And this doesn't even talk to the fact of when you start bringing in intent signals that are beyond what they know. When you start looking at how we talked about the 17 interactions that are digital, what happens when you start putting those over the top of these accounts and really understanding them? It really will give them an edge and an advantage in that understanding. So each one of these they'll be better than they were before.
And Seth, I'm going to interrupt you real quick, which is because this question is so relevant, maybe a layer deeper of what you were just talking about. Should marketing continue to engage with the buying group after the opportunity has been created? You know, I love this question.
Oh yeah, I mean that's when they should be engaging the most. And there's a big trend happening, which I'm sure most of you on the call have seen and are living right now, moving from a perpetual one-off buy and then go away and come back when they want to buy again, over into recurring models. And it's happening not just on software, not just in SaaS. I mean, we have hardware companies that are doing that. The companies really want to get into a recurring model, and it's making a very distinct shift from the one-off sale to the next sale being the most important piece. So once the opportunity is created, to a large extent, that's just the start of the game. Going forward, you're going to need to have that understanding and work that opportunity even harder as you progress through not just that opportunity, but the closed one, and then the next closed one, and the maintenance of that account, and the continuance. And that's on the not just for an individual rep, because some reps will disconnect. But as an overall revenue team, as a company, if you're not focused on beyond just the opportunity creation, you're going to be left out, and you're going to have other companies that are focused on that whole revenue engine that are going to be jumping in and constantly working to try to unseat you as you go forward.
Yep. And this will be a little bit similar because I know now there's maybe not quite 50-50, but sometimes the SDRs do report up to marketing now more often than we've seen before. Steve had a question of what do you think is the role of SDRs in account-based selling, and any thoughts on whether or not to utilize them for identifying if there's a buying process, who is in the account buying group?
I would say the role of an SDR is probably more important than it ever has been at any point in time for accounts. And here's the reason why. Anybody who's tried to use opportunities going all the way back and eliminate leads, if you're a marketer on the call and you think about that process, it's paradigm shifting to a certain degree. So in order to make that first shift, the best practice is to have that SDR being the person informing what's happening in leads and transitioning it over into the account. So not only are SDRs calling and really trying to be able to build the interaction and qualify the opportunity. In a lot of cases, I mean, you talk to the marketing side of our business, when you get one that comes in onto an opportunity, they want you to call 2 or 3 other people that you've identified as contacts to try to add them to the buying group to qualify that lead even more. Because we know the more people that are identified on the buying group, the better the opportunity is for that seller. So right now, they're doing most of that transition work because it's just very difficult to move completely off of leads cold turkey. So what a lot of companies are doing as that transition point is they're counting on their SDR to do the qualification, get it into that opportunity, but also go and look for other opportunities. They're the ones that are going to see multiple leads coming from the same account and be taking that first stab at pulling it into the right opportunity for the rep. So it's absolutely critical, especially at this junction where we're moving through this transition, that you have an SDR that can do that. It makes a huge difference.
Yeah, Seth, I completely agree with you on that. And what we've seen even with the use of Revigy is SDRs helping to create that buying group immediately out of the gate and in a visual format, understanding not just the organizational structure, but through their initial conversations, discovery, sitting in the background on demos, if that's something that your SDRs are doing with the account executives, they're understanding where those influence layers are as well. So it's one thing to know, all right, XYZ person reports to the CRO, who reports to the CEO. It's another to know the 3 or 4 levels of influence across the board that are driving the decision behind the scenes, and then connected to those motivations that we talked about earlier for each of those buying group members. So that's a critical piece to have there. And it's honestly just another set of eyes and ears that you have on these accounts as you're expanding through multiple opportunities. Land and expand is absolutely, I would say, the biggest piece moving forward that we're going to see more of. And that's a critical aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we've talked a lot about the buying groups increasing. In all reality, the selling group or the revenue engine is increasing. Now with a lot of this stuff and the interactions going online, as a company, you had better get aligned with marketing so you can start capturing those digital signals and getting them in your reps' hands so they could utilize them when they get those interactions, because those used to be interactions they would get that would help inform their process that they're losing now. So you got to be connected to marketing. On the customer success side, you've got to be connected with them because they understand what's going right and wrong on the account. So it's actually made it harder as a seller because now you've got to interact not just with your overlays and with your sales counterparts that are helping you sell. In order to be successful, you've got to interact well with marketing and be connected, customer success, teams that have kind of been disconnected to a certain degree over the years. You've got to come together. If not, the companies that do are going to have a distinct advantage over you. All right, so sales, marketing, customer success kind of brings us in this, must come together to optimize accounts. So this is kind of an overview we've done. It's interesting because in the past when we did this, the revenue waterfall would end right here, or we call it and then it would go into buyer line and customer lifecycle. Reality is the revenue waterfall is the entire cycle. And you'll see how we talk to this and introducing this new revenue waterfall. Everything's a cycle. So you've got to be involved from beginning to end. Sales has a purpose in it, marketing, customer success, you're all working in this to handle each of your distinct parts, and you've got to do it together to optimize. So there's a stat that's been out there for a long period of time that's talked about, and we've used it over the years, that 67% of the buyer's journey happens before the sale is engaged. That, from what we're seeing, is just no longer valid. This whole world of a marketing team managing it up to a point and handing the baton off to the sales team to go close it, who then hands it off to customer success to manage it, just isn't the way a buyer wants to buy. It isn't the way a buying group wants to buy. The truth is they're going to bring you in whenever they want to bring you in. And what we see, you can see here to a certain extent, just kind of the way this looks, is sellers are getting pulled in everywhere. Marketing is getting pulled in everywhere. It's really up to that buying group. And when they want to bring you in, they're going to bring you in. So you've got to be ready to collaborate to work through these deals together. So those good old days of, hey, I'm just handing it, now it's ready, off to you, sales team, go close it, not my problem anymore. Or sales saying, I need more prospects because I don't have enough. No, you guys are in it together. And you have to be able to work together within that account to understand what's going on and inform each other to optimize your opportunities. So the other thing around this is the opportunity, and I've alluded to it and talked to it, this is the center point. And if you think about it, there's all these things going on, all these signals, all of these different interactions that are happening. You want to combine them all into that opportunity so you understand exactly what's happening and you can address it and manage it. That's from a marketing standpoint, putting in your intent signals, combining multiple leads that come in, understanding which list and adding them to the proper opportunity, collaborating with sales so they're making sure that it's aligned, that it's accurate, that you have the information in, and then they're putting in their interactions. What you're creating here is this big set of data that as you get more and more tools analyzing that opportunity, the more it's going to be able to help reps, help marketing, help the companies facilitate the best interaction that's going to lead to the highest possible close rate. So this is what our revenue waterfall looks like. And I put this in here because this is going to support the entire revenue waterfall for the account. And traditionally, when we've talked about waterfall and marketing, it's always been new acquisition. And I think to a large extent, in the majority of companies, it kind of still is today. The reality is marketing and sales, customer success, you guys are all in it together throughout all of these cycles. Retention, cross-sell, upsell, there's value, especially think about it from the perspective of the interactions I talked about. You've got a seller who could go online and do a search. That search could lead to a phone call from a rep or to a rep to be able to understand to be able to ask more detailed questions. If you don't connect those things so the rep knows what they asked about, you're not going to be as well informed as others when they call you. So you've got to connect those things together and work together in that account, utilizing all the details to be able to optimize them. All right, next poll question. Do your sales and marketing customer success teams have a way to share knowledge about account opportunities? How do they do it today? Are they using the opportunity? How do they do it?
Yeah, this is really interesting because, I mean, what we've found even internally and being now almost exactly a year into the role, we set up a lot of processes in order to be able to share that information, but it's hard because the MarTech stacks and the sales tech stacks aren't integrated, and we can do some things through Salesforce, but we can't do everything. And we're getting some phenomenal intent signals, other things that could be helpful in the sales process and to make the buying experience better and more relevant, but it takes a concerted effort.
Oh, it's amazing. The crazy thing is we've kind of evolved, right? It used to be the days where you'd say, oh, I wish I had the data. Now we have the data, but everybody has their own silo data, and it is incredibly difficult to actually get it put into a place where you can analyze it together and utilize it to win. That's going to change over time, but right now it's just about a bunch of data everywhere and trying to utilize what you could find. It's absolutely not easy. You're spot on.
Yep, we have all the data.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to address this later. So I just want to make sure this person knows that we heard the question, and maybe you can speak to it in the coming slides. But they were asking if you could talk about how CS would engage with prospects. We only engage CS after the first sale, but would be interested to hear what part they could play prior to the sale.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not engaging your top CSs to talk about the experience that your reps are that your customers have, and getting them engaged to understand, it's a selling point. If you have a great CS that's helping clients, making a difference for them, to me, that's a key part of the selling process. You have a customer success team, you've made a huge investment in them, they're making a difference for your customers. Don't wait until you have the sale to show them off.
Yes, Seth, completely agree with you on that. It's really interesting. So what we've started to do on the Revegy side is actually introduce the customer success reps at the last meeting or second to last meeting prior to that sale closing. So they're understanding who those original stakeholders are. As we know, from sale to implementation to customer success, you're literally rolling through a different set of stakeholders at each point, going from the business stakeholders to the project stakeholders to the program owners. So really keeping that continuity from beginning to end and fostering those relationships as a joint team and collaborating on that approach, that's critical. And even bringing marketing in, and I know we had this conversation earlier about marketing being in the sales cycle and continuing to push content. I think it's post-sale as well. Marketing, pushing out your newsletters, your product updates, new collateral that's going to help with adoption, value creation, those types of things, absolutely paramount to driving that cross and upsell or expansion of that opportunity later.
Absolutely. I mean, why not do it, right? If you're a seller and you can get a backing on the digital side to be able to help you influence that sale, who wouldn't want that, right? You're just getting more information in front of that customer and keeping them top of mind to you. Your point around the customer success team, one of the biggest friction points we see is from sale to implementation. So if you have a customer success person that you bring in prior to the sale and that handoff happens up front and they guide you through the implementation, that's a great way to do a handoff to a person that they can trust and at least know as they're going through what can be a rocky transition into the implementation of a product. It's a great opportunity to do it. And it's actually really good for the company as well, because they get to using your product faster. So it's a win-win all around. It's worth taking advantage of it. Right. And then go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say one additional point on that is it also gives you a potential reference client much sooner than you would normally have. Especially we roll into hypercare post-implementation where customer success and the implementation team are working together. Once you foster those relationships, if you get a referenceable client that early on, you know that you're headed for success long-term.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I mean, going to your point around the cross-sell, upsell, I mean, customer success is a huge player in the cross-sell, upsell and the retention stuff, or in the conversion, especially in contract renewals. All right.
Got some results here. 48%. I'm impressed by 48% of you. I have a way to share knowledge about account opportunities between those three revenue generating teams. 10% said no, and 42%, also really proud of you, are working on it. And good luck to you. It's not easy. It can be done though. Open communication is the first step.
I mean, 48% is a big number. It's great. There's a pathway to it, and it's good to vet that and keep improving it, because that is hard work to get it done. So that focus is awesome. All right. So jumping back into the presentation, what we'll talk about from here is really 10 points where we talk about the key things that you can use to optimize sales outcomes by using a strategic account planning tool, an ABS type tool. And it starts with understand the account opportunity. There's kind of 3 steps you go through with this. As a rep, and this is counterintuitive to a certain degree, but kind of obvious in another. When you're going through your annual planning on a strategic account, you understand, reps do this every year, whether they put it in a system or they don't put it in a system. They go through and figure out, where am I going to get my number? I've got a quota I'm trying to hit. Where am I going to get my number? They translate it down to the dollars. They understand which ones are going to be the ones they need to win. The next step, which is the one that doesn't necessarily happen as often, is converting those into opportunities. And one plea that I would have with anyone on the call is don't create it as, I know the functionality exists to create it outside of the opportunity. I would highly recommend you don't. If you need to come up with an agreement with sales where you don't count opportunities until the rep pulls it out of stage 0, or you don't or you have a certain agreement, do that. But make sure you create the opportunity. Because if you create the opportunity early, even if it's not active now, push it into a place where marketing knows about it, and also make sure marketing knows about the strategy, because they can help you. They can help you by telling you the intent signals. They can help you by creating specific programs that can be addressed to these different types of opportunities. So by creating that, that's a key step in getting the entire revenue engine behind you to help you win that sale. You're not alone anymore, and you're only alone if you kind of isolate yourself from the rest of the people there that can help you. So understanding the current available insights and knowledge is critical. So this is kind of looking, when you look at a Revigy's tools and how you can break down and understand what's going on with each one of these buyers and really build knowledge around them. That's how you're going to be able to understand how to grow the account. You've got to get an understanding of them, what they're looking for, which that will help facilitate the strategy you're trying to implement. Also, determining the existing white space. This is huge and something that is honestly not taken advantage of as much as it should. One of the biggest opportunities you have in an ABS system is being able to identify white space in an account, being able to lay out everything that's there, what they have, what they don't have, and pick off the different pieces of white space, and then not only create them as opportunities, but push them into a place where marketing can take those and help you. And this one's really critical in that you may have white space that's years out. Why not facilitate and create a relationship with marketing where you can put that into a nurture campaign, where they start doing touches on that particular customer about that, aligned to that specific product in a way that it's timed to help bring awareness digitally while they're kind of not looking to get help from you as a seller. That's how you can collaborate together to really make the most of these deals. All right, so the next one is monitor and build a shared plan. So this is where you come together to figure out what the plan is on optimizing this account. So that's where sales, marketing, customer success comes together. We recommend doing it on the opportunity, putting all of your information into the opportunity, using that as your center point. And there's many reasons for that, but by having it there, you have it all in one place in a system that's the center point of all of your other systems. CRM is typically where the center is. So with all of your data on the opportunity there, it not only gives you data and information that can be analyzed to help all three of these teams together, but also imagine in situations, there's stuff that we'll talk about that we're working on the Forrester side between sales and marketing, where if you lose a deal, very few companies actually take everything that they've learned from that loss, pull it back in, and use it to prepare for the next time that deal is up for renewal, or that deal where the new product is going to be another product is going to be purchased. If you do it through here, you have the information that you can push back, and you'll have access to be able to analyze and understand what could you do better on the next time around. And then the other one, this kind of goes back onto the marketing side. There's so much you can't see. 27 interactions, 17 of those are digital. Reps don't get visibility to those digital interactions, but they could and they should get visibility. You may only see that center point, that in the center of the lead score, that center of the target, but there could be all sorts of other signals that are kind of a mosaic that can be put together to better inform you on the sale and to increase your chances, because it allows you to see in places that you're currently not seeing today, because that information is not being shared with you, or the rep isn't the person they're going to anymore to get that information. Moving into kind of the execute and win the deal together. So this is where you go in and you're looking to use all of the capabilities of your revenue engine to win the deal. It shouldn't just have to be sales. Sales shouldn't be on their own trying to figure this thing out. You know, the lone sales rep, I'm just going to go be a great sales rep. Why? If you have the ability to get telephone, so going back to the BDR, SDR, that's doing some of that qualification and matching around leads. If you have marketing who is desperate to get more details on the opportunity so they could build customized campaigns that'll better resonate with the people that they're targeting, you can provide that information. There's nothing that's going to do nothing but help you. Where in today's world, a lot of times marketing is doing their own campaign and sales is doing their own campaign on the same customer base, but with different messages. Bring it together. Use the opportunity to bring it together so you can align all of those details and put your best foot forward with the customer. And then once qualified, you want to move it into the vetted pipeline. And this is where it goes through those same set of stages where you're working it through the forecast. The one difference that we're looking at is typically the sales stages have kind of just not been used. I've done analysis and have continued to do analysis on pipeline and which stages are used. Honestly, reps don't use them, but they should. And the reason why they should, think about what we've talked about already with revenue teams, and you're trying to align revenue teams so customer success knows their role, marketing knows their role, sales knows their role, so you can optimize each interaction. That's what sales stages can enable. If a deal is in stage 1, these are the things that we all commit we're going to do to these types of deals. So I think what you're going to see is in a lot of these vetted pipeline situations, instead of it becoming kind of a forecasting exercise and you move to the stages as necessary, or if you're in a company that's forcing you through the stages because they're trying to make sure you do it right, instead, it really should be, where's the value I can add at each stage, and giving that seller the value they need to be able to do that. And then the final piece is negotiating and winning the deal. And most companies have deal desks, deal pursuit, especially if you're a big company that has really complex deals. In this situation, account planning is so critical because you need the intelligence. In really, really strong deal pursuit teams, you're actively working to identify which accounts deserve the resources to be included into deal pursuits. You're way up into deal qualification, and you want to put that resource, which if you do a deal pursuit teams right, they are invaluable in being able to help companies win big, complex deals. Now imagine if that didn't come from the rep who threw their hand up 3/4 of the way through the process and instead came through a qualification that happened early in the sales cycle where they could really ramp up. This puts you at a distinct advantage. Then the final piece is building a long-term relationship. And this is when it goes over into customer success. So you want to have customer success programs that are aligned with sales and marketing. You guys are a revenue team. You should be working as a team. One of the stats that we have around that, if you have a robust program, 54% more likely to achieve retention over 90%. Most of the clients I see, or most clients I see, are in the 80% range. And if you have a great experience, great handoff, Joe, what you were talking about earlier about getting them involved and really having a nice transition so they get value from customer success immediately, and sales is handling that transition smoothly, makes a big difference. It makes a big difference. And then the final piece is create the renewal opportunity to track future business. So when an opportunity goes through, it shouldn't just go away. Once it goes through the revenue waterfall, it should be recycled back up to the next thing. So if you had a new business acquisition, once you've won it or lost it, it should be cycled back up into either a retention situation. When that opportunity goes in as a retention, if there's upsell opportunity, that should be another opportunity. And if there's cross-sell, there should be another one there that you're using to be able to manage these deals. By doing that, it allows you to create this cycle where you're not always trying to create new opportunity. You're actually taking what you've learned from the opportunities you've lost, and also taking what you've learned from the opportunities you won and recycling it back into your waterfall. So when they come back through with all of that knowledge and can be positioned to generate a much bigger pipeline and much bigger and more visible pipeline that you could start working well before you typically work them in a sales process. All right, last poll question. Do you have a joint transition customer success plan for net new sales?
While we're doing that one, two things real quick. We are coming towards the end of the slides. So if you want to go ahead and get in the queue for our Q&A, it looks like we'll have probably about 10 minutes to do that. So go ahead and submit your questions. And then we do have a couple of questions related to some of the first slides in this section. First of all, should sales see and be able to modify a stage 0 opportunities?
It's a really good question. It really depends on your SLA and what a stage 0 opportunity is. There should be agreement with marketing on when those things can be modified. What I wouldn't say is sales shouldn't just be able to reach in and pull them out kind of without clear understanding of what they are. They should hit a certain qualification point where they move out. Caveat to that, if as a seller, you're identifying opportunities that you want marketing to be a part of, you should have the ability to take those out whenever you want, because you're identifying them. You're basically just putting them in a holding pattern until you deem that they need to come out. If it's one that's been generated by marketing and is coming out, those should be held to a much bigger standard, and sales should not be able to go back in. Also, I would say the BDR SDR team should not be able to go into marketing automation, just pull them out. You should have very standard processes around that. If not, it could hurt your sales process and your revenue engine.
Yeah, and if you have, a fairly mature account-based motion, ideally your marketing and sales teams would have determined those opportunities that you wanted to put on your target account list together. And you'd be on the same page with those, whether or not they should be created as a stage 0. If you think they're important enough to add to your target account list, it should already be there, and you should both be working to build that out together.
Yeah, and I mean, I see that becoming more. Right now, it's not right. Right now, the majority of companies you wouldn't ever reach in, because most sales reps don't trust the fact that if they build all these opportunities, that one, they won't be punished for it by having it included in some sort of quota, and two, that marketing is going to do what they need to be able to help them enrich that opportunity. But I think that's going to change. I think it has to change. That transactional element versus account management, it's going to be a lot more collaborative. So I think that will become the norm over the years as that trust builds, and the ability to understand and integrate and use data becomes even better.
Yeah, Seth, completely agree with you on that, especially where you have the SDRs in there too. And if they're going to be manipulating some of these opportunities at early stage, it only makes sense that you're tracking that forward. I mean, we on our end, the 0 stage is owned by the BDR or SDR to drive that opportunity forward with sales once it's accepted as either a lead by the sales team or as I'm sorry, not as a lead, as an opportunity by the sales team. Then it's brought to the next stage and continued. And we push from the Revigy perspective with our clients that 0 stage opportunities are where your future pipeline is. I mean, that's where that growth is coming from, what you're going to track and trace, put activities against, qualify against. It's all really staging that for the future. And it gives you a scope of the potential lifetime value of that customer, or at least over a couple of years.
Oh, absolutely.
And so we have another question in here from Rick. So when an opportunity goes to closed won, how do you recreate it when there's a new opportunity with the same or similar buying group in that account?
Yeah, I mean, I would say when it goes to close won, once you get this really going, the next opportunity should be created, which would be the retention opportunity for that. And you would put that right into your pipeline. You'd recycle it back through. Opportunity is due for retention within 2 years. You'll likely build a nurture program around it that supports the way the sales team and customer success are going to work with them. So to a certain extent, that opportunity will be right back in the pipeline when that renewal comes up. What happens today is once it's won, it just goes away, and then the rep has to decide when they put the new opportunity in. But to me, you take that as a closed won, and then you create the next opportunity up, which is, this is my renewal opportunity. This is my chance to keep it. Or even if you lost it, you would same thing. Now I have an opportunity. It's the win back. That win back goes in, and I'm going to try to work to get the win back in 2 years' time when the renewal comes up. So you get into this cycle where I believe as this starts to really work, you'll never have a situation where you're outside of new business that you would be creating new opportunities. You just have this cycling of opportunities that each time you get one that comes in new acquisition, the next time it's going to just automatically come through with a plan at point of win or point of loss that's put back into your pipeline with a certain date on when marketing is going to engage, when sales is going to engage, and so on and so forth. So it's just going to create a cycle.
Yeah, I think you're speaking exactly to the entire account-based everything approach, or the account planning approach that drives the executable process of account-based selling. It being able to plan those opportunities forward, understand those buying groups, layer that in as almost a suspected annuity moving into the future with that account is really big. And I'm assuming that Rick may have also been asking, if you have a potential expansion opportunity with that same group, are you layering that in as an additional opportunity there? And is it going to be exactly that, right? An additional play with those same people?
Yeah, I think it is. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky and less formulaic. I think you need to leave it up to the rep on what that looks like. So if there's an expansion opportunity, they should create the opportunity, but it really should be up to the rep to decide what that opportunity looks like and how they build it. Because I think one of the things that's really hard when you're dealing with on the marketing side is, technically there's tons of products you could sell them, but you don't want tons of opportunities. Let the rep tell you where the expansion is. And as they identify it, like when they're doing a white space analysis or they identified it even outside of the win, then you use that, let them build it, put it in wherever they feel. If they feel it's stage 0, it's not ready to be worked yet, put it there and let marketing do some nurturing around it with the information they have. And then you pull it when you're ready to go work the opportunity. Because a lot of times when you have that, what I see with sales reps is like, I just sold them a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to go try to do an expansion opportunity now. But that doesn't stop you from creating the opportunity, putting it at stage 0 and letting the marketing team nurture that for you for a couple of months while you let things cool down and you get the implementation done and you do all that stuff.
Absolutely. And that brings a good point with the collaboration on customer success and bringing them into the fold. Great. The account manager or account executive might not think, oh, there could be a potential expansion opportunity here, but they shouldn't be the ones deciding that on their own. It should be a conversation with customer success. Now that that's been implemented and stood up, hey, what are your stakeholders saying? Where do you see the possibility here? Are they a happy customer? Are you seeing conversations around expansion? Where is there potentially new opportunities? And then drive that creation, qualification, et cetera, of that expansion or cross and upsell.
Oh, it's a great point. It's a great point because you may have, as a sales rep, have an idea of that as an expansion, and getting the understanding from the customer success person working with them every day or working with them consistently to validate it. That's absolutely a great way to go. And in a lot of cases, the customer success team may be able to identify those. They will identify those as well. So yeah, it's a great point.
It's a great handoff where customer success should always be speaking to sales to talk about that happiness and healthiness of that account or those specific opportunities that were sold, and vice versa. The account team should be speaking to CS if there's new marketing qualified leads that are popping up in that same buying group, in that same account that are in the same vein that has already been sold. Then you get that opportunity to go back and forth and really have a dual prong approach of how you're going to grow the wallet share in that account. It's, I've seen it work so many times and I've seen it fail because of the lack of collaboration or communication there.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to what we've been talking about, right? If you're all collaborating around the account, you're all utilizing opportunities to identify, nurture, and close potential. Now you have one big revenue engine that's just really handling things in the most optimal way possible to maximize your chance to win.
Yep, looks like we have some results here, and I'm glad we spent so much time on this conversation because it was relevant to the people that responded. Do you have a joint transition customer success plan for net new sales? 27% of you said yes, 36 said no, and 36 said working on it. So I'm sure, hopefully this was helpful to you all. And again, if you have follow-up questions, drop them in the chat.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so just to close out with the final slide with takeaways. So the 5 takeaways that I'll leave you with today. Buying groups will make sales and marketing and customer success will use sales, marketing, and customer success resources throughout their buyer journey. So I talked about that earlier. It is no longer a handoff. It is a team race together to go win those deals. So you've got to work together, and the companies that do that well are going to be the ones that come out the best. Complex sales, utilizing buying groups where sellers are needed and wanted. So you want to make sure where you put the seller and where you put you want to put them in the right place to be able to handle each of the situations that are happening in the buying group. So if you give them the information they need to understand that, and also collaborate back with them to understand what the seller is seeing, it allows you to use the entire revenue engine to be successful. Leverage account-based selling to optimize complex interactions. There's a lot of complexity that happens in accounts. So by being able to pull those in, understand them at the account level, and then build a plan together is a huge value add for anyone trying to sell into a big complex organization. But the next one, account-based selling plus account-based marketing equals account-based revenue optimization. Using your human and non-human interactions, understanding and utilizing tools to optimize each of those together. That's how you're going to win in the future. And then we talked a lot about the optimizing the customer success handoff to eliminate the need to constantly find new business. You really want to make the most out of what you have. It's kind of it's a no-brainer, so I'm not saying anything new. Finding ways to keep business is just as important as finding new business. So with that, thank you guys very much. It's been great. Is there any other additional questions? I don't know if we have time or that we want to
Yeah,
talk
I think
to.
we're running out of time here. Feel free to shoot me an email afterwards if you have additional questions, and we'll send some follow-up. Give us some time to package everything and get it out to you. But Seth, want to thank you so much for your time today. I learned a lot. Great discussion as always. Thank you for sharing your insights, and hopefully it was helpful to everybody on the phone as well.
Great. Yeah. Thank you guys.